Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J. Naylor. Thank you again for joining me. It's great to be back with another Sarah's Soundbite. So, what am I going to talk about today? Well, there's a thing, because I was mulling over all the things that were running through my mind and all the things I want to talk about, and there is just so much. But really, I guess it comes down to a blend of things, from the conversations I've been having lately with podcast guests. If you've listened to the conversation I've had with Carol and Louise of late about curiosity and about being true to yourself, and then I've had a host of meetings with other people. And it all comes back to this need to be true to ourselves. And so that's what I thought I really wanted to talk about, because we live in a world that is so noisy with mainstream media, marketing. We've got stuff coming at us from all angles, telling us that we need to be like this, like that, own this, do that, to be seen as successful, which actually is a load of rubbish. Success comes from within. It comes from yourself. It comes from feeling happy and content within. Any amount of products and things that you can buy, yeah, they're nice, don't get me wrong. I think, having a nice bit of artwork, a nice bit of jewellery. Oh, look, I have a nice silver necklace for those of you watching on video. Do you know what? Bought it in a charity shop. It was £1. I thought, that's silver, that is. I'm having it. You don't get many gems these days in a charity shop. And actually, though, to be truthful, I'll share with you the dress I've got on at the moment. Again, charity shop. Because I'll be honest, I can't bear spending proper money on clothes unnecessarily. So much has been manufactured en masse that goes and ends up in landfill. And this isn't supposed to be a ranty podcast, but there's too much. There is too much out there, and I'm sure all of you listening, well, I hope all of you listening will agree with me to a degree on that. There's been too much that's been overproduced. We're sold constantly to buy all this stuff, and all we're doing is making other people rich and actually making ourselves more miserable in the meantime, because all we keep on wanting to do is to consume, to work to the narrative that's telling us that that's what it is. And actually, when you understand that is the narrative, once you can hear what's going on, once you can see what's going on, you can distance yourself from it. I mean, even as early this year, as I was, Christmas time, I say early this year, but the sort of the seasonal stuff, going into the local supermarket and, you're bombarded with all the seasonal produce and your brain's saying, oh, I ought to be buying that. And your sort of financial mind's going, you don't need that rubbish. Then you've got this argument inside going, well, actually, are you being tight? And why are you? No, I'm not being tight, but the conditioning's telling you're being tight for not buying the stuff that you're being sold to, which you don't actually need. And it's just packaging, and it's full of calories anyway. So I know that the noise, and I hear what you are thinking and you are saying, and I don't want to add to that, which is why as a coach I don't go out there and promote myself particularly, because there's so much noise in the coaching sector as well. To be honest, I very much believe in energetics and allowing things to flow, the quantum, and trusting the process and believing that everything is working out wonderfully. Because it is, because what we perceive, we believe, what we think about is, because life is an illusion of our own creation. Once we can step away from, as I've said, the noise, once we can see what it is, when we move away from mainstream media, the marketing and all the stuff that's going on, and separate ourselves from it and start to dig in and find out, about us, about what floats your own boat, and you take a step into that. That's when all the magical stuff starts to happen. I have always embraced, I like the treasure actually, I've always embraced sort of loving going to my grand's drawer and finding out, what's in there. And that sort of has replicated itself throughout my life. And actually, if you start to think about what it was that you loved doing as a child before potentially you then got funneled into a career that might not have been of your choosing, or you've chopped and changed from job to job to job because you've never found your feet, it's about coming back to the self. What is it? What floats your boat? What really excites you? Not what other people think that you ought to be doing or you should be doing, what your family think, your friends think, your children think, or what have you, but what floats your boat. And when you step into the power of that, that's when, as I said, the magic starts to happen. Hey, it's not easy. And sadly, I'm estranged from my son and have been for over 3.5 years because I'm living my life on my terms. I'm hoping at some point in the future things will change, but at the moment we haven't spoken for 3.5 years, which is sad. I'm not going to dwell upon it, but I have to live my life for me, not to make somebody else happy, if that makes sense. And part of me enjoying my life was when I created my Lucy Loves Latex Instagram account, because I discovered a love of latex in my mid-50s. It doesn't look like it at the moment for those of you who are watching, as I'm wearing a sea salt summer dress. But you know what, every so often it's lovely getting dressed up and creating content and having a bit of fun. And if that's part of my life, that's part of my life. It's who I am. It's permission to be yourself. So what is it that you love doing? It could be that you enjoy wearing kilts. It could be enjoying that you like having a packed lunch every day when you're sitting in the garden. I don't know. We've all got different things that we enjoy doing. But how often do we look into that? How often do we embrace it? How often do we get stuck in a narrative that has been brainwashing us for forever and a day? But how often do we step away from it and then start to give ourselves permission to be? Less should, more you, I'll repeat again, it's magical. We moved to the coast, my husband and I, coming up for 3 years ago, and it was a big shift from living in the Midlands in the UK, but it's been brilliant. We're part of a community here now that has just keeps on unfolding. The more we do what we enjoy doing, the more connections we make, the more conversations we have, the more we do as a result. But hey, I understand as well how you can get to being and feeling stuck, because I got divorced 21 years ago now, and I really hadn't got a life at that time because I'd got caught up into a relationship whereby I went to work, came home from work, and really didn't do anything else. Whereas over the last 21 years, I've had this curiosity, this open mind, and I've really dug deep into discovering and rediscovering who I am and reawakening what is already within me. And it just keeps on expanding. I mean, I've had all nature of experiences and opportunities presented to me. And, I keep on looking at and rediscovering things, like I said earlier, about what floated your boat as a child, what you've done in the past, what you've let go, because life happens. We know life happens, and we can end up, getting stuck, and we need to get out of that. But it's only when we change our behaviour, because it always comes back to the self and how we can change what we do and how we think, because we aren't our behaviour. We have that control over the mindset, and we can change the words that we use, the dialogue we use, and we can do things, and we keep it in the present moment. And instead of saying, I want to be doing this in the future, or I will be doing this, I will be doing that, say, I am. This is what I am. This is what I'm doing, because that brings it into the present moment. One of the things I've started to do just recently is refurbishing handbags and doing some refurb on some old bits of furniture. To be honest, I get excited about too many different things, and I'm always doing something. And actually, I need to stop a little bit more often, spend some time meditating. But then I'm going, I could be doing this and I could be doing that. But it's about leaning into who you are and what works for you. And that's the beauty of it. I've covered rather a lot of ground in this episode, and I'm sure maybe some of you would want to hear more about one subject than another. And if you do, please let me know, because for me, that helps me create the content that I can share with you through my short sound bites, because I've got so much I can talk about, and I don't want to spend too much time just going on one subject, because I know there's so many different things that can talk about. But I'm also acutely aware that there are certain things that people do want to hear more than others. But what I would like to finish on is just be yourself. Be true to yourself. Find out what that means. Be curious. Have an open mind, explore, try new things, do different things, and make today the first day of the rest of your life every day, and just do something different. And in the meantime, just please do subscribe wherever you're listening to, be it on YouTube or on any of your podcast platforms, to make sure that you get the next episode of Sarah's Soundbite on harnessing happiness. And thank you all for listening. Take care for now and have a great week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J. Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit sarahjnaylor.com. That's sarahjnaylor.com.